meeting of the Balboa Reservoir Community Advisory Committee. Let's start by, that's the call to order. We'll go to a roll call. Please answer if you're here. Michael Ahrens.
Present.
Bridget Davila. Bridget Davila, not present. Christina Godinez. Godinez. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Amy O'Hare. Amy, you're here. Maurice Rivers.
I'm here.
All right. Mark Tang.
I'm here.
Peter Tam. Peter?
I'm here.
Okay. And I'm John Winston. I'm the chair. And city staff, we have Lee Lutinsky from the OEWD, Sun Young Hong from the Planning Department, Leslie Valencia from Planning. The developer team, we have Nora Collins from Avalon Bay, Kirsten Dischinger from Bridge Housing, and Gary Strang and Wendy Mock, who are from GLS Architecture, who are designing the park.
I missed that. Who do we have from Avalon?
From Avalon, Nora Collins. Nora. Is Supervisor Yee here? I'm not sure. Okay, we'll come back to him. He wants to say a few words, but when he arrives, we'll check him in. The overview. We are going to talk tonight about open space design and programming. It's going to be a discussion item, and there'll be plenty of time for people to check in about that from the public. There will be an election of a new chairperson and vice chair. We will discuss the Balboa Reservoir CAC annual report, and then there will be general public comment. So, let's see. Has everybody seen the minutes? I'm going to go ahead.
I've reviewed the minutes and I think they're accurate. So I would move.
So you would move to approve?
Yes.
Anybody want a second?
I would like to have a little input. There's just an error. I mean, usually you go around and call on everyone.
Yes.
Stop. Yeah.
Go ahead, please.
Anyway, it's just a small thing on page 4. My name is indented where it should be flush with the left.
Oh, okay.
That's all.
Fix that. Any other comment on the minutes? Any changes? Okay, can I get a second on the move to approve? Anybody?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor? I guess I'll have to call the roll again. Michael Ahrens?
Approve.
Christina Godinez?
Approve.
Amy O'Hare?
Approve.
Maurice Rivers? Are you muted?
I'm here. Sorry.
You approve the minutes? Mark
You
Tang?
approve the minutes.
Okay. Mark Tang?
Yes.
Peter Tam? And I vote yes. Peter, okay, good. Minutes are hereby approved. Is Norman here? One more check.
Hello.
Norman, Supervisor Norman Yee would like to have a few words with us.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Oh, it's freezing.
Yes, it's cold.
Thank you, Chair. Hi, everybody. I guess everybody's cozy at home, huh? So I just want to express how, grateful for the existence of the Balboa Reservoir CAC and everything we have been able to accomplish through the years to envision what is possible for the neighborhood. And as I have stated before, we typically do not have this much community engagement for projects with the city and the developer. And what we have here is truly sort of transformative. In fact, a lot of the newer projects and people kept on asking for a similar type of CAC. And it seems to become more of a standard than outlier in terms of how we do business in the city. And I'm glad you will one of the things I'm glad about is that even through this pandemic, you all want to continue to shepherd this project to ensure that there's going to be continued partnership in the planning process, construction, and future programming for all the public spaces. Since we are unable to meet again in person, and today I wanted to take this opportunity virtually honor the members of the Community Advisory Committee. And as you know, I'm termed out, so hopefully you'll have the supervisor-elect at some point join you at one of these CAC meetings, Myrna Melgar. She is very familiar with planning since she was the president of the Planning Commission at one point before she decided to run. So I hope that you welcome her when she gets a chance to actually join you. But today, it's really for me to have an opportunity to honor all of you, because it's one of these things where I know you put in a lot of time. So whether it's our current chair, John Winston, Amy O'Hare of the Sunnyside Neighborhood Association, Michael Ahrens of Westwood Park, my neighbor across the street somewhere, the Maurice Rivers representing the Ocean, Merced, and Ingleside neighborhoods, and board trustees Bridget Davila of City College, Peter Pham of the Ocean Avenue Association, Mark Tang of the San Francisco PUC, CAC, and Christine Gardinas, representing Lake Wilmerdine High School. And I don't know if I understand that she's might be on maternity leave, so I know she's there. But so what I'll be sending you is something like this. I'm sure some of you have seen certificates like this in the past, and we hope to actually send it to your home sometime this week. Once I could get either myself or my staff to go in and make these things. It's been really challenging, actually, try to run an office when we're not in the office. So on behalf of the Board of Supervisors, I want to present each of you the certificate of honor for your service to the Balboa Reservoir Community Advisory Committee and your continuing commitment to representing community vision and voice through this entire process. And again, I want to reiterate, I know that there's probably not a lot of public viewers today, but I try to remind the public, because sometimes they don't understand. They say, why don't they would make comments like, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? Why don't you do more to the CAP members? And I say, hey, they're all volunteers. They're doing what they can. They all have day jobs. Many of them have day jobs. And, let's compliment them and for actually stepping up and putting, many of you have put literally hundreds of hours into this effort. So, again, I want to, regardless of, of our views in this, I honor each one of you for actually stepping up and trying to express those views and to work together to what will become our project in the future. So thank you very much. And that's all I really wanted to do was to do this. So when you get this in the mail, that it's with all my sincerity that I actually want to get it to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. That was really touching, and I appreciate the honor. And I think I speak for all of us when I say that we all have gotten to know all these members of the public by name, and we run into them on the street. So I'd like to share the honor with the public that have been, many of whom have shown up at all these hours as well, of all these meetings, 60, 70 meetings. So, and I also want to thank you for your time and your vision on this project, and you felt the need to bring the public in, to reach out to the community and bring the public in, and this is going to be a lasting legacy. People will think of you when they go past this wonderful project. So,
I want to say one more thing. I forgot to mention that I really want to also thank the staff, the city staff, who have constantly been. Again, it's not something that they usually do, and for them to show up at these every meeting and participate and embrace, your comments. I want to thank them for it too. They didn't have to do what they did, so thank you.
Well, Supervisor, this is Mike Aaron's, your neighbor. I would like to personally thank you for all the time you spent personally meeting with me and your staff, hearing all of our comments. We haven't always agreed, but that's what makes for good meetings and good discussions. And I wish you a happy retirement, and hopefully sometime we can get together, walk one block that we're away from each other and meet, but I don't think we can do that quite yet. But I also especially want to thank you for continuing the CAC for at least another year. And I say at least another year because as this development proceeds, I think the public input is even as important, if not more important, than your approval. So thank you, and happy retirement.
I'm looking forward to it. Thank
all right.
you.
Thank you very much, Supervisor.
All righty.
I want to also introduce the person behind the scenes who really runs the show here, Lee Lutensky. She had a couple of words to say as well tonight. Lee, are you there? There you go.
Hi, everyone, and thank you, Supervisor Lee, again. I also just want to echo some of the sentiments the supervisor relayed and just extend, on behalf of my colleagues in the city, such intense gratitude for all of the members and the members of the public's commitment to this project over the last few months. I'm excited to be moving into the implementation phase. We can talk about, actually realizing all the benefits that we worked so hard to coordinate and to discuss. And I just, so on a practical note, I did want to add that I've been in communication with the CAC members about when the next number of meetings can happen. As you're aware, the CAC will sunset. CAC will sunset in July of next year. And so we have about 7 months, 8 months left of the formal city-sponsored CAC. And so I will be in touch with the CAC members directly on subsequent meeting dates, and we will advertise those. But we always solicit feedback as to if there's a topic in particular you'd like to meet on, or timing of meetings. You can always email the BRCAC email address, and we can take those into consideration. I'll leave it at that. I just want to say again, we're very grateful to all of your contributions over the last number of months. We're very excited about the high quality of project this will be, and excited to listen to the presentation on open space, actually talk about something really green and exciting. So I'll leave it at that. And we're all still here at the city, so reach out to us at any point. I'll hand it back to you, John. Thanks.
Alrighty then. Let's move on to item number 3, open space design and programming. And again, from the developer team, we have Nora Collins from Avalon Bay, Kirsten Dischinger from Bridge Housing, Gary Strang and Wendy Mock from GLS Architecture. I hand the gavel to you.
Hi everyone, Kirsten, Bridge Housing. So nice to be with you guys again. We're really happy to be here having a great conversation, as Lee said, about, the sort of the gem of the project, the big open space that, we're all very excited to think about how it's going to actually work and function in the community. I just want to reiterate Supervisor Yee and Lee's comments and really thank everybody who has participated, the CAC members, but also everyone who's come to these meetings and really helped us think through this project and help us get to a place that we're really happy to be, which is talking about how to move forward from our conceptual design and advance that slowly to construction. I'm just going to intro really quickly today, kind of where we are and what our next steps look like, especially what our next steps with all of you will look like. And then hand it over to Wendy, who is going to really walk us through some early thinking on the open space planning and get the ball rolling on that conversation. So as you all probably recall, and as I think community members and Supervisor Yee alluded to, part of our development agreement includes a detailed discussion of our commitments to ongoing coordination with all of you through detailed design, which is our next step, and then through construction, where we'll need to make sure we're working in lockstep with all of you, and then through operations. Actually, once we have a park, we want to make sure that it's serving the community surrounding it, and our community facilities are also working well together. So there is a community engagement exhibit, which is part of our development agreement, and it has different requirements for us for how we work with the community. And these are minimum standards. We imagine, we'll go beyond that in many places. For example, this meeting tonight is not part of those requirements, but it's just a place where we really felt, hey, before we put pen to paper again and move forward, let's hear what the community is thinking about some key questions that came up in our discussions. So for the building design, there are several different buildings on the site, as you recall, 3 from Bridge, 4 from Avalon, Mission Housing has one, and the townhomes. Each one of those needs to come and have a meeting with the community before we submit any paperwork to the planning department. So that's a minimum requirement. And then for open space, which is our topic tonight, we need to have one meeting before we submit the application to the city, and then another meeting before the city approves that application. So there's definitely a number of required touch points. And then we imagine additional opportunities as we kind of shake everything out and understand what we need to really make the design work. And interestingly, we also will be engaging the community very formally during the operations of the park. There's going to be an open space advisory committee, which was designed to sort of mimic this CAC. I think everyone feels that the CAC format was very successful, and one of the components that made it successful is appointments and participation from the various established neighborhood organizations. So the open space advisory committee that'll run for the life of the park or for the operations period will include representation from each of those organizations as well. And finally, sort of the construction period, there is also a requirement that, we communicate timely, and then twice a year we meet with the community and make sure that our construction plan is working well and isn't creating issues for the surrounding community. And there's a lot of detail on that section, which I'm happy to get into when we get close to construction. That's still a little bit out, but it's a very thorough and thoughtful piece that really makes sure that all of the concerns and places where it's important for us to work in lockstep with the neighbors are well addressed. Okay, so that's all of our work ahead of us. And then I just want to talk about together, and then I want to talk a little bit about what's going on with us. Where are we in our process? We started working with you in 2017. We now have our approvals from the city of San Francisco on conceptual design for the infrastructure and conceptual design for the buildings. And then we have a lot of really good work that describes what our parameters are for those designs. So now we have to go and design our infrastructure. Some of it really fun, like the park, some of it really not fun, like sewer alignment. But we're going to be doing all of that over the next 18 to 24 months. And we need to do all of that work before we start construction. So the earliest date that we could possibly start construction would be 18 to 24 months from basically right now. So we're starting that work in earnest. It's an odd time, I think, for everybody to be thinking about and forecasting the future. Development is always sort of a little bit of a crystal ball as to when you'll hit the ground and when things will come together. Of course, 2020 has added further complexities to that, both in terms of understanding how we'll put together the public side as well as the private side of the project. We're feeling really confident right now that it makes sense for us to keep moving as if we'll keep on schedule. So there's been some signs from the state around their funding for the affordable housing and from the city. So we're feeling really good on that side. Of course, no one is firmly committed yet. We're all kind of waiting to see how everything shakes out. But we do have that amount of time and we are investing in moving the project forward. We don't have any clarity quite how the pandemic and other things of 2020 impact our schedule. But we heard really loud and clear from the Board of Supervisors in August that there is an expectation that we move the project forward and we keep it on track. And so we're committed to doing everything we can to respond to that. And the first thing is investing in the design and the next steps of our development. When we come back in a couple of months, I'm sure we'll have some updates about where we are and any new information. We'll keep you guys apprised. And finally, like I said today, we spent a lot of energy with all of you on the park. My favorite community meeting of all the community meetings was probably Park Day when we had that big green painting of where the potential park would be. As you all know, the shape has changed since then and we learned a lot through that process, but I really enjoyed actually walking around the space and imagining that park with all of you. I wish we could be doing something really interactive like that today. I think Gary and Wendy from GLS have done a really great job trying to reimagine that fun, interactive markers on paper, sticky notes everywhere into something that works in this format. But really our goal right now is to just kick off our next phase of design. As I said, we'll be back at least 2 times on the park, probably more, just to really get the design and the programming correct. So there are a few ways that we figured out how to make this format engaging. There'll be some polls that you're asked to answer along the way that help us kind of understand what your thoughts are on what we're proposing. And we've saved a lot of our time for discussion because we think that might be the most effective and interesting. The chat is open, but we've been doing a few presentations and GLS has from other projects, and they said it's a little bit hard to present and also pay attention to the chat. So to the extent you have a clarifying question, that's a good format, but elsewise we like to hold the discussion verbally afterwards. So with that, we're really excited to be here and I will hand it over to Wendy.
Hi, everyone. Should I start presentation? Hi, my name is Wendy Mock. I'm the director from GLS Landscape Architecture and will be walking you through these design studies. And our design presentation will be about 20 minutes and follow after that we'll have CAC and community Q&A session. The focus of our meeting today will be focusing on 3 specific park features. We picked these specific program in the open space for discussion because we think that is key to the shaping of the open space design. And here is an overview of the series of community engagement we have conducted in the past 3 years during the design process, where we have an opportunity to engage the community to give us feedback on the open space design. The first community open house is conducted in April 20th, 2018. And in this community open house meeting, we presented all aspects of the project for the community to solicit feedback. On June 23rd, 2018, we have an open house specifically focused on the possibility of an open space. If you recall, we had this actually more like a charrette meeting where the community can move pieces of program elements in a big piece of paper to envision what type of program we will see in our open space. On September 15, 2018, that is the community park day that Kirsten mentioned, where we map out the 4 acres of open space at the existing parking lot so that we can visualize how big that can be. And on December 5th, 2018, we had a sustainability open house where we discuss various sustainability measure in the project. Throughout these series of community meeting, the park design changes from oriented in the east-west direction, connecting City College to Westwood Park, is changed to more in a north-south direction, connecting the Ocean Avenue business corridor to Sunnyside. By changing the direction of the open space, we're able to provide much better wind shelter open space and also maximize the solar orientation of the open space. And now I'd like to walk you through just the overview of the design strategy for the whole project design, since maybe some of you guys may be the first time listening into the Balboa Reservoir, CAC. Our project is located at the western watershed of the San Francisco Peninsula, and the project has a very diverse edge condition bounded by Westwood Park at the west, Sunnyside at the north, oh, sorry, I don't know why my slide is automatically moving ahead. CCSF in the east, and also Ingleside at the south. And it is the Balboa Reservoir neighborhood vision to unify all these edges with a pedestrian-oriented network of streets and open space. How we achieve that is first by restoring the natural topography of the site and connecting back all these edges together. And next, we will be overlaying a network of open space that is generated by the desired lines of pedestrian circulation at the heart of the project. Then we will design the building around the open space using the building active frontage at the ground floor to activate the open space and create a welcoming sense of place for the entire community. The open space forms the core of a pedestrian priority zones that connects the residents from the surrounding neighborhoods to the shopping and the transit options around our site. And the streets provide access for slow-moving vehicles and cyclists and also necessary surfaces. The building massing is designed in a way stepped down from the east to the west to maximize view to the ocean, as well as providing wind protection to the main open space. And here is a perspective, an aerial perspective, what we envision to be built at the Balboa Reservoir site. That's documented currently in the master plan. Tonight, we will be focusing on the Reservoir Park at the core of our project. The open space is bounded by 4 street frontage, North Street, West Street, South Street, and Lee Avenue. The site has a pretty big topographic changes from the northeast corner to the southwest corner, and there is generally a grade change of 15-foot drop. So the design of the open space will have to factor in this topography constraints. We will be designing a series of step terraces connected by a accessible path. So the whole open space is ADA accessible for disabled user. Here's a program diagram of the open space. As you can see, the open space is framed by 4 multi-family buildings, and these buildings will have residential entry, as well as this solid line representing community room, framing the park and activating the open space. And here I'll walk you through a series of terrace landscape, starting from the north we'll have currently called out a pavilion plaza, a community garden, children play area, a multi-use lawn, and on the east side of the multi-use lawn is a community terrace that's spilled out from the public community room in Building E. And on the east side here, we also have an orchard, which will be served as a privacy buffer in front of this multifamily building. Here's a perspective view of the park looking north from the multi-use lawn. On the right-hand side, you see here is the terrace seating spilling out from the community room. We see these as the heart of the project. As you move up northward, you see that there's stepping terraces of a playground, of a community terrace, community garden terrace, and the pavilion. And on the east side is a potential option of the orchard, which, like I mentioned, providing privacy buffer to the residential building on the east. Tonight, we will be focusing on 3 specific programmatic areas. One is the pavilion, second is the community garden and orchard, and third is the playground that we would love to get your feedback on. So food and habitat are 2 key program area that program that was discussed to be included in the open space design, and we would love to hear your feedback on how much of the area should be designated for food production and how much area should be designated for habitat. And during the past 2 years of design process, Rec and Park had given us some recommendation that based on their experience in managing public open space for all the community garden and food production program, ideally there should be a 6-foot fence ringing around these program. So these program space do have like spatial definition and implication on the layout of the open space. And I would like to also mention that currently the whole Balboa Reservoir neighborhood is committed to provide 75% of planting to be native to support the San Francisco biodiversity goal. And currently in the Reservoir Park, we have designated this area to be the habitat garden. And with this in mind, I'd like to get your feedback on what's the combination of food and habitat program in this open space. The community garden that we're envisioning is basically a space where we welcome the community to come in here and rent a plot and grow food. The orchard, what we envision is basically a grove of trees where you can forage fruits from, and what we're thinking about is a grove of avocado and mixed citrus orchard. And in terms of habitat garden, what we envision is we'll be concentrating on like flowering planting that will attract pollinators, butterfly, bees, and birds. And it's more a passive space, passive recreation space where community member can come in and observe the seasonality, and there'll be seating area, quiet seating area. But we don't need any fence in the habitat garden. Here's a section cutting through the community garden in the east-west direction. As you can see, the community garden is located at the flag terraces, and the orchard is occupied at this transition embankment space where the community terrace adjacent to the building E spills out. There's an elevation change as the open space step down towards South Street. So we would like to hear a feedback on like whether should what these spaces should be. And just a reminder, if we do keep this as a community garden or orchard, ideally these spaces should be fenced. So I will be walking through a series of options for you to vote. There will be a total of 3 options. So the first option which is our base option currently documented in the master plan, is the flat terrace will stay as a community terrace, and the slope area will be an orchard. And then the second option is converting the flat terraces to a habitat garden and the slope area maintained as an orchard. And for the third option is to keep the community flat terraces stay as community garden, but converting the slope area to be habitat garden. So now you have the opportunity to vote for these three options. And if you think that we did not represent all the options that you like to see, please feel free to type in your comment in the chat section.
Just a sec.
Hello.
Should we keep going?
22 people out of 45 have voted, 48%.
Can you repeat the option?
Oh yeah, okay, sure. Option 1 is a community garden at the flat terrace and an orchard at the slope embankment. Option 2 is we have habitat at the flat terrace and keeping orchard at the slope embankment. And then option 3 is we have the community garden at the flat terrace and changing the slope embankment from orchard to habitat garden.
Could I ask one question also? The community garden will be fenced, but the habitat and orchard are not. Is that the?
The habitat and the habitat is not, but the orchard is ideally should be fenced also.
Okay, I'll have things to say about that later. But okay, good. Thank you.
And could I ask you a question as well? Are you sure that avocados will fruit out here?
Yes, we do think avocado can fruit out here.
No, it doesn't.
Let's keep the comments. There'll be a moment for public comment. I'm sorry I started by asking questions, but let's vote on the poll, and I'll give you the opportunity for everybody to speak soon.
All right, we'll give the poll 15 more seconds. We have 31 of 45 people have voted. Then I will end it.
Hello.
Hedda, I hear you there. I'll give you an opportunity to speak in a minute, Hedda.
Good. Let me know, please.
All right, Wendy, should we continue?
Yes. Okay, how do I? Okay, thanks. The next program we would like to discuss is the playground design. And currently the playground is located at the center of the open space. We think this is the most protected space and is at the core of the project that is adjacent to the the affordable housing block. And here's a map to show you the open space, that existing open space that within 1 mile of our project. And with this new project, we had the opportunity to create a new type of playground that are unique to our site or even to the city of San Francisco. So I'm going to walk you through several playground option of what we can, what type of playground we can design in this space. And there will be a total of 4. The first one is a play tower. So in the play tower, it utilizes the least amount of footprint, but to allow us to maximize the play value, because as you can see in this drawing, the play element developed vertically, and if the kids fall down, it will fall within the netting inside. So the footprint of this play equipment actually is very small, and also the potentially we can use this as a scale mediator in the open space, because we have buildings framing up on both sides, but then this can be actually a pretty good scale mediator. If we don't develop the open space and upward, we can develop the playground horizontally. So option 2 is a play sculpture where we keep the play equipment low. The advantage of this is to really maintain the view corridor within the park, so that when you're standing at the top from North Street, you can look out, and it will not, the playground will not impact the view of the view corridor. And the third option, we call this a contextual theme play area. What it means is that we can design a play area that's very specific to design it to craft it for the users, specifically for Balboa Reservoir neighborhood. We can also design the play space that can tell the history of a Balboa site, or play up the water story that is the stormwater management story that's integrated into design of the Balboa Reservoir, the Reservoir Park, and have an educational value to it. And for the third option, we call this nature adventure, where we'll be focused on utilizing natural elements such as wood logs and rocks to create this play space. So with that, I'd like you to take this moment to vote for these 4 options. Again, I'll repeat. Option 1 is play tower. Option 2 is play sculpture. Option 3 is contextual theme. Option 4 is nature adventure. And if we did not capture what you'd like to see, please feel free to write it down in the chat box.
All right, we'll give voting another, at 31 of 46, we'll give it another 15 seconds.
Okay, thank you. The last program element that we'd like to get your feedback on is the pavilion design. The pavilion is located at the north end of the park, next to North Street. The design goal of the pavilion is to create a street edge, framing the north end of the open space, and also using it as a way to provide some wind protection to the open space, because we have strong prevailing wind coming up from the northwest direction. Currently, the program that we envision in our master plan for the pavilion consists of a wind shelter space there will be windscreen built in to protect user from the north west wind, and also will provide shade, as well as provide built-in seatings and counters for picnics and birthday parties. And the pavilion is located at the the top of the highest elevation of the open space. So this is a section cutting through the north-south direction of the open space, and you can see that the pavilion is located at the highest elevation overlooking down. It will serve as a beacon of the open space with light integrated in it. You can see this intersection showing that the pavilion terrace, next to it is a community garden and a playground and a multi-use lawn. Since this is going to be a iconic structure, we would love to get your feedback on the design style of the pavilion that will best reflect the spirit of the Balboa Reservoir neighborhood. And I will be walking you through 4 options that could be a potential design language of these shed. The first option is the modern shed. Second option is more like an organic shape structure. Third option is like a more orthogonal type, we call this a lantern. And then for the fourth option is a more prismatic shape structure. With that, you have a moment to vote which design language will best convey the spirit of this project. One thing I want to point out that the image that we show doesn't necessarily represent the final product or final design of this structure. So it's only just to get some feedback on the design language, and then the design team will have some basis on as they develop the design for the pavilion.
All right, we'll give another 15 seconds before we close out the vote.
Okay, thank you. So this concludes my presentation here, and I'd like to open the floor for the CAC to comment.
Okay. Let's go around the virtual table of the CAC first, and then we'll go to public comment. And after that, we'll come back to the CAC for some final observations. Michael Ahrens, would you like to go first?
Yeah, last, I'm fooling around with my computer trying to get back online.
No.
I have comments. Give me 1 minute and I'll be ready.
I'll come back to you. How about Christine? Would you like to go first? Are you?
Sure. I mean, I just have one comment about the fence. Yeah, I worry aesthetically what that will look like. So I'm interested in all the options. They seem like really exciting things, but having a fence and will really, protect folks from coming in. Like, I'm just trying to think of like, what is the actual point of it? And similar to the question that I saw earlier about avocados, like will they grow? I would be curious about that too. Like, I don't know what studies have been done to show what fruits will actually grow in these spaces. So I would hate for there to be a waste if they don't produce anything.
Amy O'Hare.
Thank you. I am very concerned about these designs. I don't think they, I mean, we have a real need in this part of the city for parks, and we have some community gardens, so none in Sunnyside or Westwood Park. And so you can say that there's a need, but those fences are really putting me off. It's very hard to imagine what was supposed to be a 2-acre open park or how I imagined it. You know, having these chopped up bits that are fenced off from view, and without being able to see any representation of the fences in any of the materials in the presentation really does not help aid trying to imagine what that's going to be like to walk through a park that's got, you know, fenced off areas. I can imagine some fences might be more attractive than others, but as it stands, the fences were not in any of the imagery. The pavilions are all very striking, but I would really love to have a pavilion where the acoustics were good and people in the neighborhood, because we have a lot of amateur musicians and small groups, people that play currently at Sunnyside Conservatory now and again, not in this era, but you know, in other years, that where they might have a place to play, where other things could be performed. It's just got good acoustics. It's a place you can watch things. There's some kind of space in front of it for people to gather. And I don't see any of that in these very striking, but what seemed to me to be inappropriate designs. So I'd like to see something really a little more ordinary.
Thank you. Maurice, do you have anything to add?
Not at this time.
Okay, how about Mark Tang?
Yeah, I think I'm going to echo some of what Amy mentioned and a lot of the chat comments regarding the fences. This is, in my opinion, not a massive park. And so to cut it up and prevent people from moving around, I just think that defeats a little bit of the purpose of the open space. And so I'm really not sure if I'm advocating for those fences at this point. I do want to potentially highlight that I hope some of this open space can adopt a lot of green infrastructure. So because it is a SFPUC, previously SFPUC property, hopefully incorporating some of the watershed educational components into the design would be kind of a nice reflection to the area use that it was originally intended for. And then in terms of the pavilion design, I think, you know, I'm open to any of those designs, to be honest. I think the second design kind of, just looking at the picture, I know that's not final, but kind of resembles a little bit like the Ingleside Library, the design there. So there's kind of that being able to integrate the design to the community at large, and also being very intentional with the materials, so that's been brought up previously with the buildings themselves and making sure that the materials are able to withstand some of the foggy evenings we get here in Ingleside. So that's it.
Sorry, I was muted. Peter.
Yeah, I think one of the questions I have is that, you know, given the way what's currently going on in the world from a health perspective, will those impact some of the design changes to, such as, you know, wider walkways or allowing for social distancing? That's concern one. I really like the idea of the orchard. I think just like what everyone else is saying, it's very important to find trees that will fruit maybe year round, like apples or something like that. I didn't see what's mentioned, but apples and citrus trees tend to be very reliable on this side of town. The fencing does concern me as well because it's not a huge space, and I want people to be able to walk through the orchard rather freely and enjoy the space coming from any which way. Regarding, you know, the acoustics in the area, I do like the idea that maybe taking advantage of the grade changes to build out some type of like a mini amphitheater or something like that, that can achieve, you know, several uses, such as, you know, live music or you know, plays or arts performances, that type of thing, and create lots of additional seating without the need for installing benches. I think would be of good value.
Okay. Michael, did you need to say something?
Yes, thank you. I was trying to get back in. I agree with Amy. I think we need something more ordinary. I envision something with a lot of lawn, open areas, more traditional playground. I did vote for the playground and I voted for the habitat, but I don't think fences are necessary in such a small area. I agree with everybody that said that. And as to the shed, I just made a comment that I don't think any of those 3 sheds fit into our neighborhood. My neighborhood is right next door, so is Amy's. And our neighborhoods started in 1917, and it just doesn't fit in if you want to fit into the existing neighborhood. So I think something for the shed, if we need one, that's a little more into the neighborhood would be better. I would like you, can somebody put up slide 13? Because I have a question about that. Is that possible? In fact, I think it's up. I think that's slide 13 right there. Yes, thank you. I think that Kirsten did a very good job. I sent an email to the developers, and I want to thank Kirsten for answering most of my questions, actually. And she answered all but one, and slide 13 is the one that wasn't answered. The questions I had was basically about the timing. My neighbors, 650 units in Westwood Park, would like to know what's the timing of construction, because we know it's going to be very tough on us. Tough on us with trucks going through, with noise, everything. So we'd like to know if this is really going to go forward. And what Kirsten said in answering my questions, I assume she was prepared for this, and she did a very good job, is that construction is still a little bit out. And she says, we don't know when this is going to happen. No one has firmly committed on both the public and private finance, she said, which thank you, Kirsten, for those answers. And we don't know how she said, how the pandemic will impact that. So I guess we just have to wait. And I would hope that the developers, if you have any further information on that right now, I'd like to know that. And but I think Kirsten did a good job at least answering my questions that I gave about 3 or 4 weeks ago. The one question as to slide 13 that hasn't been answered yet is City College. This slide right here shows that the east lot is totally a parking lot, and that is not the intention. City College has just been funded $850 million to develop both a performing arts center and a science center on that lot, and so there'll be no parking. So the question I have that has not yet been answered is, have the developers been discussing with City College the coordination of their 2 very major developments? City College development was supposed to start in 2021. So I think the real key to the neighbors is, what is the realistic timing of this development? And I'm not sure we know. So while this meeting isn't devoted to that, I did ask those questions, and Kirsten answered most of them. But if somebody could address my other question that still hasn't been answered about the continued negotiations with City College and the development, I'd appreciate that. So thank you very much, Kirsten, for your answers to the extent we got them. But I'd like to know more about City College and how you are coordinating the development, or is it possible with the budget deficit in the city of San Francisco, maybe neither one of these developments will proceed? So those are my comments, John.
Okay, thank you, Michael. My comments are all over the place. I know that in our parameters, we called for a habitat area, and we called for a community garden. I think a community garden is a really important part of any neighborhood. It brings the community together. They work and play together, and by necessity, it has to be fenced. I think there might be a good way to do it, and the size of the community garden is also in flux. You know, it doesn't have to take, I don't know, but the fencing could, you know, most community gardens that I know, the one on Arlington, the one on Howard at Langton, they're all surrounded by chain link fences, and in those neighborhoods, I suppose it's necessary to do it that way. But in this neighborhood, with the eyes on the street that we'll have from the nearby buildings, I question whether we have to have, I would like to have some kind of fence that's more aesthetic and that you can see through. I would like to be able to see the what's growing inside. And I understand that you would need to have a fence around a community garden because you don't want people coming in and stealing your strawberries. But I'd like to figure out a way to do that tastefully and that doesn't obstruct the view and that doesn't take away from the aesthetics of the area. I'm not clear why an orchard needs a fence. I think you should be able to wander in an orchard. And if somebody picks an apple, I don't see that as being a terrible thing. The habitat, we did call for, there's a lot of people here tonight who called for a habitat, and because we're going to be taking away some of the native plants and some of the animals that live and thrive in the berm area will lose their habitat. So we do need to have something along those lines, but the fencing again could be done in such a way that it isn't ugly and doesn't feel constricting. I'm thinking of the fencing around the Transbay Terminal, where there's some amazing gardens, and you don't go into them, you look at them, but there's some the fences are not too bad. So on the other hand, Amy and I were talking this weekend about Dolores Park and Presida Park, where the park is just a big lawn and people sort of there's a playground, there's a few places that are programmed, but it's basically a self-programmed area. And people seem to find out how they want to use the park on their own. Dolores Park somehow got divided into zones. There's the beach area, there's the hula hoop area, there's the drug dealer area. There's all different areas of Dolores Park that people have sort of zoned out for themselves. There's a tennis area that's been programmed, and there's the playground as well. But and this isn't as big of a park, but just the fact that Dolores Park and Presida Park have a huge lawn and people have actually been able to figure out how to use it on their own, I think we should allow a little bit of the freedom to figure out how people want to use the park on their own. Also, seating. There was no talk of benches, or somebody said having movable chairs, but I would like to be able to make it a place where people can rest. And I am not worried about homeless people. I'm not worried about bums. I think that, I hate to use that word bum, but I think that with all the eyes on the street, or eyes on the park as it may be, will preclude people from using this park inappropriately, even at nighttime. So I think some nice benches, nice comfortable benches and chairs and seating would be really important, because a park is a place where you go to escape from the hubbub of daily life. And I would like to make sure that people have the opportunity to do that. I think that's all I have for now. I probably have more, but let's go to public comment. I forget how we do public comment. Can someone from staff help me out here?
Hi, Jen. Yeah, Leslie, you can jump in if you'd like. I can also.
Yeah, I can share my screen. If we stop sharing my screen, and let me turn my heater off because it's very loud.
There we go.
How do you do public comment? You just speak up, or is that how you want it?
I guess go to participants. Can you raise your hand? Yeah, why don't you raise your hand and I'll call on you. Let's go to Theo first, since he's got his hand raised already.
All right. Right, I'm Theodore, resident from Excelsior, and I think it's important to be able to change the plans according to on the ground experience over time. So I noticed all these these public garden and stuff. This looks like that's part of the area that's supposed to be in phase 2 of the construction. So it won't even start construction for another 5 years or something. And by the time it starts, then there will be people starting to move into the phase 1 buildings. So when I was looking at the different plans for the pavilions, I noticed I thought option 2 looked pretty attractive, but then I was like worried about what about the wind impacts? Will that center column or center wall be like splitting the area into an area that's like on the windward side and the leeward side? And it's like I don't know about that sort of thing this far out, and like what might be even what might be attractive 5 years from now. And the one thing that I think is a bad idea is so-called traditional lawn, because like that's just completely unproductive guzzler of water. So I really support having productive gardens and native plantings, not a lawn. All right, thank you.
Hey, John, you're muted.
I'm so sorry. I forgot to mention that there's a 2-minute limit, so I'm going to set a timer, and I'm going to take speakers out of order because I don't really, they're just popping up on my list here. But I will go to, there's a phone number, 415 ending in 594. Is that Hedda, maybe? I'm not sure. Okay, we'll come back. Oh, you're muted. Or maybe you've been muted, the phone number. Okay, we'll come back to that. How about CLM?
Can you hear me, John?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay, this is Laura from Westwood Park, and
Okay.
I'm on Zoom, but I can't figure out how to vote and stuff like that, and I can't figure out a lot of stuff. But anyway, so just my general opinion about the design, I agree with what a lot of people said about absolutely no fences. The citywide survey at the very beginning of this whole process, people wanted a large open space, a park. They didn't want, program little chopped up stuff. Because I think even though it's quote unquote not productive, open space is restful, it's peaceful, it gives people a break. This is a very dense, populated area. So they just need some space. So I think the community garden shouldn't be there, and the habitat and an open space, and maybe an open space where the community garden is, and the orchard would still be part of an open space. So that's what I think the goal should be, though. The old-fashioned Olmsted pastoral space. And in terms of the orchard, I had concerns, too, about it seems like fruit trees need some kind of maintenance, and how would that, happen, that they would be maintained. Also, the pavilion, I really appreciate the wind consideration and breaking up the wind for the park. The acoustic thing, though, I think there would have to be some kind of community agreement or something, that there are certain times when people can play instruments if it's set up for acoustics, because everybody living in the development might not want to be listening to music all the time. In terms of the playground, I thought a combination of several of them would be good, the conceptual, the sculpture, and there was a third one. I can't find my own notes.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Okay, good. All right. Let's go to Ken Hollenbeck.
Hi, thanks. So yeah, just to echo what some other people said, I think I'm not sure that the community garden should be a third of the open space. It seems like the lawn area should be pushed into that. I would cut the community garden space in half at least, and certainly no fencing around it. I do really like the idea of the orchard, particularly in the raised space up there. And I agree with John. I don't understand why you would need a fence around an orchard. I mean, I could see fencing off the trees initially, the individual trees while they get established or something, but to fence off the whole area, it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. it would be nice, I think, if up by the pavilion, there were to be a space or a little pad, for a food truck to pull in there. I think, a lot of times I know at Sunnyside Park, you get parents that hang out there all day, and it'd be great if they could pop over and grab coffee or, snacks for their kids. I think places that do have access to food tend to get a lot more use in that regard. So yeah, I would really like to see the lawn area expanded, but I do like a lot of the design. I really like the terracing, and I like the steps that come off the community garden. I think that's great. It might be nice to see a water feature. I don't know. And Wendy, can you tell me, is that lawn area right now, is that flat or is that a sloped area?
The lawn area is flat.
Okay, thanks.
Mhm.
The only one other thing I'd mention, I don't know if we're going to have time again to give more feedback, but we're all sort of spitballing it after seeing it, the presentation for 20 minutes. It'd be nice if we could get the presentation a little ahead of time so we can sort of process it before giving comments, so we're not just doing it off the cuff like this. Thank you.
Okay. Also from Sunnyside, let's do Stephen Martin Pinto. How about you next?
All right. I kind of joined late, so I didn't really see a whole lot of the presentation, but I'm just kind of commenting on what I gathered so far. I think having some lawn space is not a bad idea at all. And you could mitigate the water usage by using reclaimed water. That's an option. Yeah, I heard talks of an orchard and a native plant garden. I think it's a great idea. I think there's also things we can do to kind of make the whole development project look a little bit more park-like without the open space. I mean, some things we could do is maybe instead of asphalt in the streets, maybe make some kind of brick or mosaic or something like that. Even though it's not part of the park, it makes it just, little things like that that make it more attractive, I think would go a long way. That's all I have.
Thank you. Have we figured out how to unmute Hedda? That's the one with a phone number, I believe. Is she? I don't think she's muted her own phone. I think that she's muted from.
The one that ends in 594?
I think that's it. Yes, I think that's Hedda.
I can do that.
Hedda, are you there? Is that you?
No, this is Laura. I was just told to unmute, but I've already talked, so I'll mute again.
All right, sorry about that.
Hi.
Okay, let's go to Bob Herman then.
Hey, hi. I'm a Westwood Park resident too, and I like the terrace idea. I like the flat lawn with no fence. I do have concerns about the fruit trees. I have fruit trees on my own property, and they attract rodents, and you got to just be careful with maintenance. So that's something just of consideration. The one thing I would ask, and I know this is the controversial piece, is the children's area. Love the playground idea, love having kids, love an area for kids. But most parks that I know, including in Glen Park Canyon, where the children's area is specifically, you have it fenced. And that is to protect the children from, having the parents in there with the kids is cool, but attracting people that shouldn't be in there with kids is something we should consider. So in that case, I think we might want to have fences around that area, but keeping the flat lawn open is perfect. And that's it. Thank you.
Okay. Hang on one second. Resetting my timer. Jennifer Hagee, how about you? Can you unmute? Jennifer, are you there? All right, we'll come back to Jennifer. How about Ann Mongan?
Hi, everyone. I'm also a resident of Westwood Park. I can tell you that this entire exercise very reminiscent of me asking my son if he want to brush his teeth with a blue toothbrush or a red toothbrush tonight. It's very much a distraction from the really important question that Michael raised, and I'm really happy that he's speaking for all of us. I think that, everything that needs to be said has already been said, so I don't need to repeat them. But I wanted to echo that the question that Michael has raised are really important for us and the resident of the Westwood Park, and we really like them to be answered. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Stopping the timer. Is there anybody else that would like to? Oh, Jennifer, are you still there? Jennifer Heggie, going once, going twice.
You're currently unmuted, Jennifer.
Hello.
Oh, there you go. Is that Jennifer? Is that Hedda? Why don't you go ahead, Hedda. We'll come back to Jennifer and we'll try again later. Go ahead, Hedda.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I am not internet connected, so bear with me. I understand you want to have stairs in your project, and I am pretty much against stairs because older people have trouble with this. And you remember, this was a rolling neighborhood, rolling hillside. I am also a gardener, and I do forewarn you, you have rodents to be content with. They eat all your carrots and all your strawberries. A 6-foot fence should be a mesh fence where the sun comes through. It's difficult to grow anything in this area because in summertime when things should ripen, it is all foggy here. In addition, avocado trees become very big and they are very peculiar. They have a female tree and a male tree. So if you plant a male tree and no female tree, you will never get any fruit. They are too big, they become huge. And I think a playground would be wonderful to be natural, to have children build little tents and be adventurous. Thank you very much. Thank
you, Hedda. Have we heard from Chris Campbell yet? Oh, go ahead. Was that?
This is CLM. I'm Chris.
I'm sorry?
My name is Chris. I'm up at
Why don't you go ahead since you're on?
Thank you. I've really noticed since the pandemic has started, so many people are out and around much more on with their families on scooters, bicycles, etc. There's a huge uptick in people owning dogs and walking dogs, and I was wondering what accommodations are being made for any dog play area, since I expect an increase in residents owning dogs. Thank you.
Good question. Have we lost anybody that was here before? CLM, we got that.
Can anybody address that though? Or is that something that's already been addressed? Or
I would like to hear that addressed as well, but maybe we can come back to that. Well, go ahead. Is there anybody from the developer staff that could answer that? Dogs?
I can answer that. It's Nora. Yeah. Currently, we have designated, there are a few options that we can potentially integrate a dog park in the open space. And it's not, there's one location is at this end of the West Street. There's one option located at this triangle open space here. And there's one option that we can integrate somewhere here. And the strategy that we are suggesting right now is to not necessarily make a big gigantic dog park, but providing more like a quiet area throughout the project. So they're locating in these two corners and in the middle of the open space.
Okay, I think that's everybody. Whatever happened to Jennifer Heggie? I don't see her on the list anymore.
I also see Stephen Martin, Chris Campbell, and Roger.
Wasn't that was that Chris just now who spoke?
No. This is
Oh.
Christopher here.
Oh, go ahead, Chris.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead. We hear you.
I agree with many of the comments. I live in Westwood Park and it's right up the street.
Okay. Looks like you.
Voice. I think fencing in this area would be problematic because if we're trying to develop a sense of community there, we're creating all of these separate areas that are intended for individual type uses. Although community gardens are very good and really help to develop a sense of space and place and teach people about growing food. In closing that, for individuals who have registered and have a space there, you're limiting space for other people and you're not opening it up as much. I think there's a way that the Habitat Garden could focus on having that same type of component where people are gardening for wildlife. And part of the Habitat Garden could also include beneficial plants that would attract insects, butterflies, bees. And ideally, I think with the orchard as well, I think there's a way that that could be incorporated into the overall design of the Habitat Garden, that it not just be a separate element. And fencing the orchard sounds like a bad idea. I agree with Bob Furman. Fencing the playground seems like a very good idea. But too much fencing through there, the space is so small, and if we're trying to encourage commune with one another, it's like we're separating too many people. And that's all it.
Okay, thank you. I have a text and a message here saying that Jennifer is muted at the phone number ending with 846. If somebody could unmute her. I can see her on the list here. Yep. It's the little icon is the number 1, and it's the phone number that starts with 415 and ends with 846. And I think she's muted on our end.
I am pushing the button and.
Oh, there you go.
Hello, this is Jennifer. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you. Thank you for being patient.
So sorry.
Okay.
I just wanted to say I'd love to see a pathway through the Habitat Plants Garden with benches in place of the vegetable community gardens. Vegetable community gardens are normally great, but in this area where you want people to be able to move along for a little bit of a distance, it would be really great to just make the habitat plants part of that and have some benches there. And I also wanted to ask what play area will be around the childcare area. I thought there would be something there for children over closer to where the PUC land is. Thank you.
Okay, let me just turn off the timer. I think that's all the speakers. Is there anybody else? CLM for got that. Roger Underhill, did we hear from you already? Yes, we did.
No.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just I'm in Merced Heights, but I just wanted to say I think the community gardens provide good opportunity for people, especially some of the residents, just to have that kind of access because it's so hard to grow things. And a lot of the other community gardens get pretty well filled up. So, and there are also ways to protect against rodents with individual plots. I do some of that myself with my own gardening. And with the fruit trees, I mean, I like that orchard idea. And also with fruit trees, you can graft for multiple types of fruit, which I mentioned in the chat also. So there are a lot of different opportunities there. So I just wanted to mention those couple of things. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody I've missed? It looks like there isn't. I think we've got everybody. All right, let's do, I think, what was the question that Jennifer had a moment ago? Does anybody remember? Jennifer?
Hello?
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I'm sorry. I
Okay.
forgot what you asked. I wanted to address you.
Okay, there's some background thing. I don't know what's going on, but I asked about the play area that's in the child care center. Thanks.
Anybody feel like addressing that real quick? Oh, Wendy, I think are you trying to speak? There you go.
Yes, we're not presenting the space. Oh, actually, maybe I can share my screen. This area, if you see my cursor, that's the childcare, and currently we do have designate a fenced nature play space in this area. We call this an exploratory space, which will which has not really built-in play equipment, but more like allowing kids to play with dirt and twigs and rocks and more naturalistic play area in this zone.
I see. Okay, let's do a quick round robin of the committee. If anybody has any responses, let's try to keep it on topic. Michael Ahrens?
I have nothing further to add, but I'd just like to give opportunity to the developers to answer the many questions posed by members of the committee and the public. So that's all I have to say. Is I'd like to hear from the developers responses to the various questions that were posed.
Okay.
And I do, of course, support Laura in thinking that the open area is too dense. I support Kenneth in saying that there should be a bigger lawn area. And I support Steve Martin Pinto in saying that this open area should be more park-like, because it seems like everything is getting too dense and not open enough. That's my comment.
Okay. Amy?
I have no additional comments at this time.
Okay. Maurice?
Just wanted to elaborate on the design earlier, that I would like to see more of a conventional design for, I guess, the Great Concourse. I like that better. I think what concerns me is at City College, they have some buildings right behind the health center that are rusting away. So I think the neighborhood, the residents should definitely have a say in what they want, and also be cognizant that Sunnyside is very windy and foggy. So whatever design is there, it should definitely be a little bit more designed to take that into consideration.
Okay. Mark?
Yeah, I just had one additional comment that I didn't mention earlier, and that's just if we could look out for the cost of maintenance, because we're all designing this, but we're not the residents that are living there, and presumably the HOA or apartments or people that live there can be in charge of that. So I think that should be something pretty important we consider when developing this out.
Okay. That was Mark. Okay, Peter.
Yeah, the only thing I really want to add is just to kind of echo what everyone is kind of looking for, which is a lot of practicality at the design and the usage. And I think trying to create a space that will allow as much use as possible for everyone in the community and not limit anyone's access to it.
Okay, and I guess I'll talk. I have a few things. We mentioned dogs. One of the great things that people like to do when they go to, the dog owners like to do when they go to the park is not just run their dogs and give them exercise, but a little community of dog owners usually pops up. You see them standing around talking to each other. And some of my best friends in the neighborhood I met over at Sunnyside Park with the, while the dogs run around. So in terms of just how you create a sense of community, I think the park is what is central to that. And I think that's what I really want in this neighborhood, is to have a real sense of community, and any way that we can have it, I guess, in terms of get the dog community together and the hula hoop community together and the parents community together. Any way we can foster a sense of community would be great. Somebody, I think it was Harry on the chat, I didn't see everybody's chats. So if anybody sees any of them, let me know. But he mentioned lighting, and that's important to me also. Unity Plaza has some good lighting in it, but other parts of it are not. I don't like the floor lighting along the underneath the benches at Unity Plaza. It shines in your eyes, and I think a lot of thought needs to go into the nighttime lighting, a way that somehow lighting the area that doesn't have a lot of glare, lights well, but doesn't flood the area with light, because it is the front yard of a lot of people. So lighting, I'd like to hear more about how we could design that. The PUC area, we're not talking about that tonight. Is that part of the agenda? It's one of the open spaces. I'd like to hear a little bit more about the PUC area and how we're going to use that or not use it. The area around the orchard is a great idea and concept, but maybe it could just be a forest, and then it wouldn't have to be fenced. You know, I like the idea of trees, and maybe trees without apples on them or without avocados. You know, if we could just have an area that's not fenced and people could sit in the shade. There are times maybe when you do want shade in this neighborhood, and that would be a way to dispense with some of the fences that we've been talking about. I also like Jennifer Hagee's idea. If we're going to have a fenced off area in the area where the what are we calling it, the habitat area, if there's some way that you could wend your way through it without disturbing it, a pathway, maybe a subtly fenced area that you could walk through it and be able to appreciate the growth without it being without trampling it. So I thought that was a good idea from Jennifer. I guess that's it. I'd like to hear more about the PUC space as well. And I guess the other thing is I was going to say is that the playground and the areas that definitely have to be fenced, the community garden. Does the community garden actually have to be in this area? There are going to be some private open spaces as well in this area in the project. Is it possible to put? I think a community garden is really important. We should have one, but could it be in a different part of the project, in a different part of the space, so it wouldn't? So we'd have more lawn space for self programming areas. So if there's any responses from the developer staff, I'd like to hear. And if anybody wants to reiterate any of their questions so that they get answered, that would be great.
Oops, sorry, everyone. Trying to get my computer back on for you. This is Kirsten from the development team. A lot of really great questions and discussion. I can summarize a handful of those comments. I think one thing I want to get clear right off the bat is we started just with the big park in the middle. We didn't bring the PUC park or other open spaces that are part of the plan to you tonight. And we'll certainly come back on all of those. I think the big park is kind of the central piece, and that's where we started. And it's also going to be delivered one. So just to get that point across. And then I think, Mike asked for some refinements on our timing or any information, and we'll certainly keep you guys up to date. One point I wanted to make really clear is we know that it'll take us at least 18 to 24 months to start construction. So there is at least an inside date. We don't know what the outside date is as to when we'll actually get that delivered. And then in terms of all the open space ideas, I don't think you want my answer. I think you want our design team and our development and all of us coordinated together to really come back with a comprehensive piece. And that's why we came here today, to kind of hear your questions, get the themes, really narrow, because we were kind of blue sky when we looked at the park right now. And I think we got some really clear information and some good inspiration for what to bring back. I do want to say that this park, while we will maintain operations of it, the city will definitely review it and make sure we meet some basic operations and standards. So things like child safe planning for the playground and making sure the kids can't run out into the streets and things like that will absolutely be part of the city's review as well as our own review. And then, you know, conflicts in the space that create maintenance issues will be something that we're very concerned about, both for an operations side, but then also Park Rec for their own potential operations. So all that's to say, this meeting went really well. I feel like we got some really clear and good information from all of you, and we also have a lot of work to do, and we heard that loud and clear. There were some questions about lighting, other pieces that we just really haven't even started to scratch the surface on. So we will certainly come back to this group on the park itself in the coming, I don't actually, maybe Lee or Nora know, I don't actually know our schedule off the top of my head, but I know that we're back every couple of months on different topics. And at each of those meetings, Nora or myself or someone from our team will be there to provide updates on where we are, both on the development schedule and the design specifically for the park and the buildings. If there was like some burning question that I absolutely missed, I'm happy to take that. I know you guys still have some other items on your agenda tonight, and it's 7:40, so let me know.
Okay, yeah, I think that's great. I think we'll move on to the next. Thank you very much. A really good presentation. And I realize we were just starting out on this, and we expect to hear from you in the future, and maybe figure out how to integrate all these different elements into one coherent plan that'll actually work for all of us.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thank you. I'm told that when I'm not muted, there's a loud noise that comes from my microphone, so I've turned my voice down a little bit, and hopefully it's better now. So let me know if in the chat if it's still a problem. The next thing is I have been chair of this committee this is item 4 of this committee for a long time, and it's time to have an election. I'm happy to continue. However, if there's anybody else who would like to be even a little bit lower would be nice. I hear, okay, let me do that. I'll get it after I finish this. Anyway, if there's anybody who would like to nominate anybody, we're going to nominate and vote on people to run for chair and co-chair of the committee. Right now, we have no co-chair since Robert Muehlbauer left the committee. So are there any nominations for, let's start with chair. If anybody has.
Well, John, I'll nominate you.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else?
I'll second that.
All right, is there anybody else that would like to, it's only another 6 months, 7 months.
Well, that is not certain in my mind, John. I know we can set in a year, and we can talk about this later, but I'm not certain how long this committee will be needed. It may be needed longer.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say it's only for another year, because I thought this was a good meeting tonight, get the input to the developers, but it may be longer than a year.
Well, we'll have to re-legislate that if the time comes. Well, I'm happy to serve, so let's vote. All in favor of being chair? Okay, well, let's do it by name. Michael Ahrens votes yes, I see.
Yeah, I moved, so I support you.
Okay, Christine?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Maurice?
Enthusiastically, yes.
Okay. Mark?
Yes, for me too.
All right, Peter?
Definitely yes.
And I guess I should abstain. So, okay, that's that. And co-chair? Would anybody like to be co-chair? I can't nominate anybody as the chair, but I would suggest that Amy nominate herself.
All right, I nominate myself for vice chair.
Right.
You can't do that, Amy. I nominate you.
Okay.
You can't nominate yourself, Amy. That's parliamentary. You can't do that. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All right.
All right. Anybody else would anybody else like to make this a competition? All right. We have a motion and a second, nomination and a second. So Michael.
Yes.
Christine.
Yes.
Christine, okay. Amy doesn't vote on this. I'm not going to make you vote. Maurice.
Yes.
Mark.
Yes.
Peter.
Yes.
And I vote yes. So it's adopted. or whatever. All right, that was easy, easier than I expected. Now we need to have a discussion about the annual report. Every year around December, hopefully around December, we submit an annual report to the Board of Supervisors describing what the last year has been like for the committee. I expect that we will probably include a description of each meeting, and there was at least one resolution about Ocean Avenue that would have to be included, as well as all the numerous city approval actions and completion of project documents and site design, and the public benefit package was completed. So I expect all that will be in the report. Is there anything else that I'm missing that anybody would like to have included in the report?
Can you go over those items again for me?
Well, a description of each meeting, a quick one. The resolutions, I think there's at least one, maybe two. I also have all the approval actions from the Board of Supervisors and the Planning Commission and the committee, Board of Supervisors committees. The completion of the project documents, the site design, and the public benefits package.
Well, I think there's one thing that's very crucial in the annual report, and I'm not certain it has to be in December, John, because you and I and Robert worked a lot on the first annual report and the draft, negotiated what the ultimate draft final report was, and it was a good one. But I think key to any annual report is the status of the development. And right now I have not heard, I mean, Kirsten has given us the best report so far on the status, and it's up in the air, especially because of COVID. So I think before we give an annual report, we have to have a meeting where the developers directly address where they stand with whether this project is going to go forward. This project may be a pipe dream. It may be, especially because of COVID. So we got a lot of good answers tonight, especially from Kirsten. But I think before we do the annual report, we ought to have a meeting where the developer really comes to us and says, yes, we can get our financing. Yes, this will go forward. And that's really key to me. And I think to a lot of other members of the committee. So it doesn't have to be in December. You know, last time we gave our first annual report 3.5 to 4 years into our existence. Mm-hmm. And it only says that on the first anniversary, we have to give a report. So maybe that report is in early 2021. It doesn't have to be in December, even though our first report was December of last year. So my suggestion will be that we have a meeting maybe in 2 months where the primary topic is talking to the developer and finding out, is this project feasible? Will it go forward? So that we can conclude a really true report. So that's my thought, one of my thoughts.
Okay. My understanding, and I could be wrong, is my understanding is that, like I said, I could be wrong, is that the bylaws say that we need to have a report every year. We blew it the first few years. We managed to get a report out last year, and I thought it was in December. I know we're kind of flexible about when it's actually due. And it does make sense that we actually delay it until sunset, maybe, unless we have a second report or an addendum to the first report in July of next year as we sunset. That would include everything.
I don't think we should delay it until the sunset. And it's the first sunset. This whole thing may be continued. Right. Because the key is we're talking about what the playgrounds will look like, what the open areas will look like, without knowing whether we really have a project.
Right.
Because of COVID, the city of San Francisco has a $1.8 billion, it's hard to say billion, deficit problem. And we were requiring them to do a lot of financing for the project. There's conditions to closing with the developer. And so I think really key to let the Board of Supervisors know is, where does the developer stand? Stefani's the only one who voted against the budget in the city of San Francisco. And one of the reasons was because it was dependent on sources of funding that weren't there. And we really have to find out from the developer, where do you stand in your negotiations with your own banks? Where do you stand in the cities financing this project? And that should be part of our report. And
it should definitely be part of the narrative of the report. Just that's a question that's outstanding or it has been answered.
The first report was in December, but the first meeting was in August. So this is all, it says every year. So I'd say by January, we should give a report, but I think by then, maybe in early January, mid-January, we should have another meeting where we talk to the developers about whether there will be a project.
Anybody else have any input about the annual report? Okay, I think Michael has a good point, and we should at least raise the question and maybe get an answer, hopefully. So, okay, I guess I guess maybe we should go to public comment. Is there anything the public needs to say about this? Take a quick look at chat. Okay. Looking at participants, I see some hands up, but I'm not sure if they were up from before. Harry Bernstein, you haven't spoken yet.
I'd say Michael is perspicacious and he's looking out for the whole community as much as for the projects. So I'd like to hear more of what he was talking about when you return to that subject. And I don't think the staff is going to know because it's really above their level. Thank you.
Okay. Whoever has the phone number ending with 594, I think it needs to be unmuted on our end. There's a telephone connection. It's the phone number. There you go.
I didn't put, this is Laura again. I didn't put up my hand, so I don't know why it asked me to unmute. So goodbye.
All right. Stephen Martin Pinto, did you have your hand up for this item or from before?
That was from before.
Okay, put your hand down then, please. And Corey Smith, I know you're a new one here.
Thanks, John. Just in regards to the economic situation of the developer, just want to remind everybody that these projects are built out over a really long period of time, and over full, if not multiple, economic cycles. And I certainly think it's important for the project to make sure it is feasible, but very much trust the team to continue to make sure it moves forward. Thank you.
Okay. All right, and I will say that it's mandated that the project does move forward by the approval from the Board of Supervisors. Okay, so we'll take that under advisement, and we will produce a annual report. I'll at least get the bare framework of it together, and we'll revisit it at the next meeting and just see if maybe I'll put something together, and we will discuss it at the next meeting and find out how people think about it at that point.
John, you say it's mandated that the project go forward, but if the conditions to closing don't happen, the project will not go forward.
Yeah.
You agree with me on that?
I don't know. It sounds reasonable. I just don't know.
I can tell you that's what the documents say. There's conditions to closing, both of the purchase agreement and of everything else. So in the event that those conditions don't happen, either the developer can walk or they can sell the project to somebody else. That's what the documents say.
It's definitely something that should be in the annual report. We should definitely find it.
And so
the economic conditions should be definitely a part of the report. I agree with you.
Cannot draft an annual report now, so you know the answer to those questions. So I'm further suggesting that we have a meeting where the developer addresses these questions that are so important to Westwood Park, to Sunnyside, to Ingleside. Is there going to be a development? Because people are trying to plan their lives and they want to know, will they have a development? And so I suggested mid-January, we have a meeting and then we have a report after that meeting.
Okay. All right. We will, I don't know how to, is that a motion? I'm not sure how we do that.
So yes. Somebody told us from the city, we ought to have quarterly meetings. I think we need a meeting in mid-January to talk about the questions that I've just addressed.
Okay. Or at least an item at that meeting.
As I said, I thank the developers and Kirsten for starting to answer the questions, but we need to be addressed.
Okay, so you're putting forth on the floor a motion that we will delay the annual report until the next meeting, at which time we will question the developers about the feasibility of the project.
The final, you're not delaying. No, that's not my motion. The final annual report was sent in April of this year. It was drafted. It was drafted in December of last year, and somehow it was never sent to the Board of Supervisors. I think Lee, I think you'll agree with me. It was sent in March or April, so I think we have plenty of time.
Okay, that's fine. I just want to hear what your motion is that you.
My motion is that we have a meeting sometime in January with the developer to address the timing on the project.
Okay, economic feasibility. Is there a second? Anybody want to second that? I can't as the chair.
Nobody wants to address this important issue?
If I can speak briefly, I would say I would like to see these two items disengaged. I don't think the annual report should be contingent upon the meeting that you're proposing. We can do an annual report which reflects what has happened without necessarily having completed the meeting to address your concerns about the financing.
I agree with you. The annual report is probably due in April of next year because the first one was really sent in April of this year. So it should be separated. You're right. So my motion is, I think our next meeting, the only motion is our next meeting should be in sometime in January, not 3 months away, where we ask the developer to update us on the economic feasibility of the project.
Okay.
Do we even need a motion? Because I mean, John, as chair, you set the agenda, so.
Well, the agenda, we don't need a motion for that, but just on the annual report, to delay the annual report. I guess if anybody else wants to talk about it, I don't know if it actually does need to be a formal motion that gets voted on, but I'd like to get everybody's opinion.
I'm not addressing the annual report now. All I'm saying is that I think we should wait 3 months for our next meeting. I think we should have a meeting in January, which is 2 months.
Okay. All right. The thing on the agenda right now is the annual report. So we're going to delay that until after the next meeting. Is that what you would like to have happen?
The annual report is due in Lee. When did we formally file the last annual report? Do you know? I think it was April, wasn't it? March or April?
It might have been officially, I think the meeting in which it was finally decided was in January or February of last year, and then officially filed what did happen on a delay. But to Mike's point about the meeting cadence, I'm happy to follow up with John and all the members offline to schedule dates for the subsequent meetings.
Yeah, makes sense.
That's fine. We can discuss it offline. We don't need a formal motion, but my point is at the next meeting, I'd like to address these issues.
Okay. And I will at least get the bare framework of this annual report going, and we will discuss further the economic questions surrounding the feasibility of the project.
Thank you, John.
Okay. That concludes item 5. And general public comment, items that were not on the agenda. Does anybody have any particular? If your hand is still raised from before, please pull it down. And I see Ken Hollenbeck has his hand up.
Yeah, actually this was covered. I just wanted to thank Wendy for the presentation. I know one of the things about, the whole process is you get community feedback and you get 100 opinions of what should be done. And, there was a lot for her to try to squeeze into the design. Yes. I want a bocce ball court, I want a kid's playground, I want an open space. So I know she had to take all that into consideration. I just hope, she got a lot of feedback. I hope it didn't come off as all negative and we're trying to be constructive, and I think she did get some good feedback. But overall, I think she did a great job with it, and I just wanted to say thank you for that.
Thanks, Ken. I know Wendy had to hop off, but I know we were talking afterwards, and we appreciate all the feedback we got today. So thank you.
John, you're on mute, but I do see one final hand up, I think, with the phone number ending in 594.
That's what I was just saying, if you could unmute. Oh, and I was going to turn my sound down.
Hi, this is Laura again from Westwood Park, and can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear
Yes,
you.
we hear you.
This is Laura from Westwood Park. Can you hear me? Can
Yes,
you hear me?
We hear you,
You
Laura.
can? Okay, I'm sorry. I just wanted to make one point. I've been trying to get a little information from the city still about something that really still bothers me. The purchase price of the land still seems really low in my mind, and from people I've talked to, it also seems very low. And that there's no public document where you can see how they came up with that price, or anything that would help make that clear to us. So I was wondering if there's any person I should call, or have they finally made that document available, the PUC, the audit, the internal audit, because they didn't do an independent audit, and if you have any information about that. And then, yeah.
Is there anybody who can answer Laura's question?
Sure. From the Office of Economic and Workforce Development. Laura, I'm happy to email you the documents to give you the information you're looking for. If you want to reach out to the BRCAC email address, it's right on our website, brcac@sfgov.org. I can just reply to that. And Leslie just put the email address in the chat, so you can find it there. They're very large documents, but it's easy.
Okay, thank you.
Laura, I think I can answer your question. The response is that Westwood Park objected to the valuation of $11.4 million. And we were told, and it is the law, that we cannot see the actual appraisal. We got a summary of the appraisal and objected to the valuation. And one out of the supervisors agreed with our position and voted not to approve the sale. But the actual appraisal is not available for the general public. And there's reasons for that, but that's part of the legislation of the city of San Francisco. But 11.4 seemed to us to be extremely low. It's probably the true value is more like $150 million. But the Board of Supervisors did not agree with Westwood Park and approved the sale, with one Gordon Moore objecting, saying that the valuation was much too low. But that's behind us. The transaction has been approved. So I hope that answers your question. John, if you're talking,
No, I realized. Is there anybody else who would like to speak in general public comment on items that were not on the agenda? Harry, did you still have, you pulled your, Harry, you still have your hand up from before?
No, this is this is the other hand.
Okay, go ahead.
I would say, just following up on what people were just talking about, one of the current topics around is having to do with one of the City College projects. If you take what Michael just said about the possible value of this property, the thought was, well, if they got the full money for it, then they would not have been able to afford as much of discount units and things like that. But the PUC is also asking for you know, $34.5 million for another PUC project in the southeast area at 1550 Evans. Technically, they should probably be building it themselves. This is an education project, but they're having City College build it. So on the one hand, they get a very low price, low input from the developer here, and then they get extra money that maybe they shouldn't be getting at that other end, and they are happening, you know, like 1 month apart. So it's just an interesting juxtaposition to see this play out. And if you talk to some of the supervisors and some people, they'll say, you know, mixing apples and oranges, but it's still a fruit salad. So just something to keep in mind.
Okay, thank you. And we still have Theo would like to speak. This time I'll time you.
All right. So I think something to keep in mind with this, even with this COVID thing, that this project still has the central purpose of we are in this housing crisis and we need more housing. I think it's easy to lose sight of that, like get used to being in awful conditions. But now with the COVID, I'm hearing of people like crowded 11 people and 1 bathroom. They're now able to expand out into, like, some of these families will have are able to move into newly deserted units, but our city is still essentially fully occupied, and we still need a lot more housing, especially over the coming years as the economic recovery. I don't want to go back to such high overcrowding. So this project is still essential. Right, thank you.
Okay. I think that's all the hands I see. So with that, I guess, is there anything anybody wants to say in closing from the committee? Just before I close the meeting. Okay. In that case, the meeting is adjourned. Good meeting, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay.